14th, 2018 started as any other day. A mother and her daughter were going on a camping trip to rekindle a lost bond, as the defense will tell you. But as the prosecution will tell you, throughout that day, things did not seem right. Odd occurrences left and right began popping up. For example, the first stop that they made, a cafe, was seemingly for breakfast, but then appeared to be for the internet connection to begin a life insurance policy on young Parker Page. The next stop, Calkins Campground, appeared to be a fun campsite, but they chose to take the most dangerous loop on that campsite. And when Jordan Ryder that night decided to go back to the cafe, it was seemingly to get more food for his daughter, for her daughter, but suddenly he calls in that life insurance policy. On the outside, it seems as if it's a normal, everyday mother-daughter relationship for the ages. But when you look deeper, you'll see the cracks in the defense's story. And you'll see that Jordan Ryder is guilty of aggravated murder. Now, aggravated murder need only apply to two stipulations. The first stipulation is that the person who was murdered was under the age of 13 years old, which we know for a fact that Parker Page was. And so the prosecution, to reach its reasonable doubt burden, need only prove one stipulation, that Jordan Ryder knowingly caused the death of her daughter. And this does not mean that she intentionally murdered her daughter. It means that she set up circumstances that would lead to the death of her daughter. Please do not be confused. The prosecution will prove to you today that Jordan Ryder willingly murdered her daughter. We will be calling 3 witnesses to prove this to you. We will be calling Kelly Dews, a hiker who was the last person to see Jordan Ryder and Parker Page together alive and well, and who hiked on Left Run Loop, or they chose to hike. We will also be calling Dr. Quincy, who was medical examiner at Midlands, and who directly examined Parker Page's body and gave the autopsy report to Detective Chesney, who was the detective investigating this case, and who will tell you how during the interrogation, all of the information I have mentioned popped up one after the other, and it became very clear what was happening. You see, Jordan Ryder had been in prison. He had been in medical debt from his daughter, who had a debilitating disability called osteogenesis imperfecta, which makes her bones break so easily that even a trip could cause massive fracturing throughout the body. He will tell you that, as we know, when someone has that medical disability, the medical bills begin piling up. And how is a convict supposed to secure gainful employment? They cannot. And so, Jordan Ryder turned to the only option that was left, trading a life for a policy. We pray that the judge, jury, and everyone else in the court knows by the end of this trial the truth. Jordan Ryder is guilty of aggravated murder. Thank you.
May I please support? Your Honor, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. As you hear today's trial, ask yourself, if you could give your child the world, would you? My name is Melanie Tiller, and along with my co-counsel Matilda Kahara and Bree Smith, we will be here representing a mother who just wants answers. Jordan Ryder is no stranger to loss. She has had to suffer the loss of her husband Terry to an aneurysm caused by diabetes. After that, she had to suffer the loss of not one but both of her parents to a tragic car accident. In 2012, she lost her freedom, separating her from the only person that mattered to her in the world. And now, she has to suffer the loss of that person, her daughter, Parker Page. In 2013, at the age of 7, Parker Page was diagnosed with a disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone disease. This meant that a simple stub on the toe was a trip to the hospital. The wrong twist or turn could be a serious threat to her life. And this scared Parker, paranoid her even. Imagine waking up every morning wondering which bone you're going to break next, and crying yourself to sleep every night. She stayed at home. She never went outside. But Parker was stronger than this. She could do what every other little girl could do and then some. And Jordan Ryder was going to make sure that this little girl knew that. So as soon as she got home, she decided to take her out to empower her. She took her to the movies, a hero movie, to show her strong people that can overcome adversity. Then she decided to take her hiking, to encourage her to do the same. On July 14, 2018, they chose Calkins Campground. And on that campground, they decided to take Lake Road Loop. And when the trail started, it was going all right. Spirits were high. They started their mantra, look at your feet, you can't be beat. They took it nice and slow. About 45 minutes to an hour went into the trail, and Parker became frustrated. She lost her confidence a little bit. And after losing her confidence, not only did she get that information, but she heard some new news. Jordan had a new plan. Parker was not going to be returning to the home that she once knew. Jordan was going to start a new life for them. And at that news, Parker began even more frustrated. So they decided to go back down to the campsite. And Jordan allowed Parker to take a walk and cool off, just to take in all the new information. But a significant amount of time passed, and Parker had never returned. Jordan became frantic. She looked everywhere. The tent, the campsite, bathhouses. She even went off site to the cafe. But still no signs. Jordan went back down to the tent to give Parker someone to welcome on her return, and still nothing. Eventually, Jordan fell asleep, only to be awakened the next morning on July 15, 2018, to a detective, Chesney. Nervous at the sight of a police officer in her face, but hopeful to hear about the whereabouts of her daughter. She answered any questions that she could and tried to provide any information that she could to find where her daughter was, only to be arrested 9 minutes later with no explanation. July 14, 2018 was supposed to be a day of empowerment, but tragedy struck when she lost her hero. And tragedy struck again when the detectives decided to suppress her defense, only to make their lives easier. Now, there is only one person who holds the burden in today's case, and that is the plaintiff. It is their job to prove to you today that my client, Jordan Ryder, is guilty of aggravated murder, meaning that she knowingly caused the death of Parker Page. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, what does beyond a reasonable doubt mean? Let me explain it to you this way. Say I have a box. And in that box, I put a cat and a mouse. Put it down, leave it for about 10 minutes, come back. Open the box. One cat, no mouse. So, what's the assumption? Cat ate mouse, right? But let's go back and investigate that box. And you see a small hole in the corner. Now what's the assumption? The mouse ran out the hole. That hole is reasonable doubt. And if you find any holes in their case, that means that you have to decide with the defense in today's case. We are here to defend a grieving, loving mother who wants to know what happened to her daughter just as much as you do. So, in today's case, ask yourself, if you could give your child the world, would you?